Hello and welcome to Beyond the Corporate Hangover with me, Emily Derschler. If you are a woman in your 30s or beyond and have left a lengthy spell in corporate to set up an online business and are feeling stuck, I'm here to help. In this podcast, we'll be digging into what it takes to go from employee to entrepreneur and build an amazing business that showcases your unique expertise. We'll look at the challenges women face, those limiting beliefs and behaviours from our corporate life that keep holding us back, and I'll provide practical ways to help you move forwards as a confident business owner. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, worried or confused about how to make your business a success, and you want to shake off the corporate hangover, tune in every fortnight. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Corporate Hangover. Now today's episode is a big one. It's the topic of mindset. Now I know there are kind of two camps when it comes to mindset. There are the people who say, Emily, you can't possibly cover the whole of mindset in a 25-minute podcast episode. And there are those who will say, well, mindset is just about having a more positive attitude, right? I'm firmly in the first camp. It's absolutely true. It's a massive topic, but it is one that we're going to be exploring a little bit. And I say we, because we have a lovely guest today. And I'm sorry, Danielle, I've already kept you hanging for far too long.
I've been trying to smile nicely.
So let me say hi to you first. Danielle Thompson, welcome. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well, thank you. It's going to be a big one today because the mindset is something that is so critical when we are building our businesses, because it's woven into every decision we make, every conversation we have, in both business and in life, actually. So it is really a big thing. So we're going to have a little chat about that because you've got a really brilliant story to tell, and I can't wait for the listeners to listen to what you've got to say. But let me introduce you first. Oh, and for any listeners who have not seen Top Gun, there is a spoiler in this intro. Danielle wasn't anticipating that I was going to add this line in, but it's totally amazing, so I have to.
And I'm worried if they've not seen Top Gun.
Well, obviously, that's another conversation for another day, but what are you thinking? But yes, if you haven't seen it, just skip past the intro so you don't get the spoiler. So here we go. Danielle Thompson is an award-winning business operations partner, 3-time best-selling author, and host of the Business and a Brew podcast. She specialises in the elevation, support, and integrity of the fractional landscape. In plain terms, she's the person founders and fractional directors call when they're doing everything themselves and know they shouldn't be. Through Gold Spun support, she gives them the done-for-you ops and marketing to actually step back. Through Gold Spun training, she provides resources and training for business owners at all levels. And through Fractional Link, she helps fractional directors prove they're the real deal. And, spoiler, she is the goose to their maverick without the awful death bit, in Danielle's own words.
Yes.
Brilliant. I love it. So Danielle, that's quite the intro.
Thank you. I felt like applauding myself then for a moment.
I think we really should take a moment just to admire the brilliance of Danielle Thompson, and thank you for coming on my podcast. I'm truly
you're
humbled.
more than welcome.
So, as you can probably tell, dear listener, you're in for a wild ride today because Danielle is an absolute hoot. So before we crack on though, just to let you know that if you want to know more about what Danielle does, about her podcast, all of that stuff, I will make sure that all of her social links and everything you need are in the show notes. So check those out and do contact Danielle if you would like to do so. So Danielle, mindset. It's a big one, and I think your story is just such a brilliant example of how changing your mindset kindly, the really important word, kindly, is such an important thing. So I'm just going to ask you just to crack on and really just let us know where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Oh, and I'm going to try and keep it a lot shorter than the other day when we could have talked for about 6 days.
No, we absolutely could have. And actually, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. So you carry on.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'd loved business my whole life, and it was something I was interested in. And there was a bit when I was about, 21, when I came out of uni, when I thought, yeah, I could start my own business. But I didn't. because that's just not the way I was raised. I was very much raised that you have a career, and I kind of had like these goals and guidelines for what I should earn and where I needed to be in life, and it was very much a traditional path. So I did university, and I came out and had a job within 3 weeks, I think it was, working at Bacardi Martini down on the docks, which sounds a bit weird, but they would just happen to be on the docks because that's where the alcohol came in on the boats. That was lovely, and I kind of worked my way up in that. And then the whole business was shifting, and I got headhunted by a company up here in the Midlands, which is where I live now, in Nottingham. And I started working for a large corporate company, and it was a great job, and I loved it. But I was at an age where I had a partner at home, but I didn't have children. I could work from sort of 6 a.m. till 7 o'clock at night. You know, that 60, 70-hour weeks were perfectly normal. I threw everything I had at my career, and I loved it. I really did love it. And I was good at it. Yes, I had a reputation for being slightly scary and a bit ice queeny, but it was part of what my role involved. There was a lot of saying no and a lot of dealing with kind of all levels of the business. But it was me, and for a long time, it really was my whole identity. And then I had a couple of children, and everything changes, but you're not ready for it because no one tells you everything's going to change. So you're just kind of like doing the thing you were doing before, and then you're like, oh, that's not working anymore. And my son was tiny. My son must have been about a year old. I'd just gone back to work, and my daughter was about 3. And I came home one night late, would have been about 7, so she should have just been going to bed. And my daughter was sat on the stairs and she was crying. I said, what's the matter? And she said, why don't you love us enough to be at home? And it was the most gut-wrenching, awful moment, because I just felt like the worst mother, the worst human. As it was, I didn't feel like I was doing a good job because my brain was torn between I need to get the kids from nursery and I need to do this and I need to do that. So I just felt awful. And at the same time, work had been... It was a challenging landscape at the time. My lovely, lovely boss had gone off sick, and the guy that was replacing him wasn't a particular fan of me, so there was some very difficult challenges around that. And he was just being very unpleasant and pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. So with long hours, my daughter getting upset, and this guy just needling me constantly, it got to a point where he set up a really big meeting that I wasn't invited to. They had the meeting, and then he came out of the meeting and started shouting at me publicly in front of an open plan office that I should have been at the meeting, which I wasn't invited to. And my brain, it just stopped. My brain just went, no, I don't want to do this. You can all F off. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I picked up my phone and my bag. I left my charger. I left my crisps. I left a lot of stuff. And just walked out. And I started crying the minute I got in my car. And I went to the NHS walk-in centre, and I went up to reception and I said, hello, I think I'm having a breakdown. And the woman went, there's a bit of a wait. It's all right. I'm used to the walk-in centre, it's not a problem. So I went and sat in a corner and just cried my eyes out and emailed the highest person up in the company I knew and said, this is exactly what's happened. This is where I am. This is why I've done what I've done. I mean, from an HR point of view, was that the right thing to do? Who knows? My brain wasn't activated at that point. And I can honestly say that for a good 3 weeks after that, no part of my brain was working. I was completely switched off. I pretty much managed to get up every day and take the kids to school and bring them home, and in between that I lay in bed and cry. I hit the wall completely. It was full burnout, full breakdown, and I didn't know what to do because that's all I'd known. I'd only ever known working. And now I had no job, and I had these 2 children, so I was a mother, and I didn't even have a name at this point. I was just Abigail's mum or Logan's mum, and it was like my whole identity had just suddenly crumbled completely underneath me. And this is the bit where it gets weird for me, because as I said to you before, I'm not woo, and this is the bit where it gets a little bit woo. I got up after kind of 3 weeks and thought, right, you need to do something to make yourself feel a bit better. Open the curtains, have a shower, do something human. So I booked a Dyson repairman, and I booked a hair appointment in the same day. Well, you got to start somewhere, haven't you?
Of course.
Well, yeah. So the Dyson repairman came round, and while he was, I don't know, cleaning the filter or whatever it was he was doing to repair my Dyson, which was not sucking properly, he was talking to me generally, and he said, what do you do? And I said, I don't really do anything at the moment. I'm I'm deciding on my future. And he said, well, when you phone to make an appointment, you've got a really lovely telephone voice, and I'm looking for someone to help me make phone calls to people who inquire on Facebook and book people in. Would it be something you're interested in? And I was a bit like, I hadn't, okay, don't, completely blindsided. Completely no idea what to do with it. I was like, oh, let me come back to you. I need to think about this. I've got your number. Let me come back to you. So that happened, and then I went to the hairdressers that afternoon, and I was telling that story to my adorable hairdresser, Helen, who's been my hairdresser for years. And she was like, oh, do you do social media? And I was like, no, I don't do anything. Look, did you get the story? I do nothing. And she was like, well, if you do social media, we're looking for someone to help us. And I was like, this is so weird. And I went home and I kind of said, I think I've created a business and I don't know how. And it was the weirdest, one of the most aligned moments of my life, when everything in the universe kind of went, you're going to do this. You've got no choice. And I think it's very different. If you make a conscious choice, you know you've got to advertise, you've got to get out there. I had nothing. I'd literally blown up my entire life. The way I'd walked out of my career, there was no way I was going back to that. You know, as much as they talk about reintegrating me and all this kind of stuff, there was no way I was going back to that environment. And the thought of looking for another job to kind of put myself in that same position again just wasn't going to happen. So I really honestly felt like the universe went, right, this is another chance. You can do something that's always interested you, and you're going to do it scared, and you're going to do it broke, and you're going to do it on the edge of sanity. Let's see what happens. And that's the origin.
Do you know what? And I'd love hearing this the second time round, just as much as the first time, because it's such an unusual story. And I said to you before that I don't know of anybody who's kind of created a business by accident. You know, most people spend so much time thinking about what they want to do, what their skills are, putting a plan together, thinking some more, you know, you get the idea. And yet it kind of all happened in reverse for you. You had the business before you even had the opportunity to think about it.
I had no name. I had nothing. And it was so odd, because I'd studied business at GCSE, at A-level, and then at degree, so I knew the theory of everything. You know, I had book learning on how to start a business, how to run a business, and I did none of that. I just kind of woke up and had a day, and suddenly my entire life changed completely. And you got to bear in mind, I came home and said to my family, I'm going to do this now. We've got no fixed income. I know we've got a mortgage, and I'm so lucky they were so supportive. And I remember about 4 or 5 months into running my business, my mum said, I never realised how unhappy you were in life until I actually saw you happy. Right. And I think that for me, it's kind of been my mantra since. I spent my whole life doing the things I thought I should do, doing the things I thought, I don't know, society expected of me, or my family expected of me, or the expectations I'd put on myself. And when I was forced out of that pattern, when something threw me off the hamster wheel and I had to start again, I actually found what my happiness looked like. And you cannot understate that, the difference it's made to my health, my mindset, my general well-being, the opportunities I've said yes to, the person I've become. Because the person I was when I started 12 years ago is not the person I am today. And I love the person I am now.
And it's brilliant. And again, it's just a great example of almost creating our own opportunities, because I think sometimes what happens is that people go through a very traditional path in life, much like you were going through. You know, you graduate from university, you go into a job, you do something stable, you buy your house, you get your mortgage, you do all the sensible things. But then when life throws you a curveball, it can really knock you sideways. And I think just having that, and you mentioned about being woo. I'm not woo at all either. Let me make that clear. However, I'm a great believer in the power of energy, because ultimately we are made of energy. That's not woo, that is science, that is fact. And ultimately, you know, energy is just this life force, really. So I do believe that if you allow yourself to be open to opportunities and you allow yourself to see what's out there, then you will attract the right things. And you're a great example of this, because when you were down and out almost, and you said to yourself, I'm just going to get out there and just do something.
Anything,
Anything, exactly. Then things started to shift for you. And I think that's incredibly powerful.
And it's the second time, or that was the first time, so it's happened again since. So when I reflected back after 10 years of running my business, I genuinely felt like the first 8 I'd spent kind of in a zombie daze. I was very much in survival mode. And that is partly because of the way I started my business. I didn't give myself time to think. I didn't give myself time to grieve what had been my corporate career, what had been my entire life and identity. I threw myself into it in a way to cope. And completely honestly, that's not the healthiest way to kind of deal with that kind of process that I'd gone through. That massive life change needs more of a nod. It needs more consideration. It needs more time to it. So I did spend 8 years essentially playing small. I did something I found very, very easy. I was good at it, but it was easy. It didn't involve a lot of brain. It didn't involve me pushing myself out there in public. It didn't involve me, being fully me. And then I kind of woke up and I did this free challenge week that someone was running online. And it was about basically not staying in your lane and accepting the fact that your brain might want to be the kind of brain that does 15 shiny ideas instead of just one niche. And I was never a one niche person, so that was like, that sounds interesting. Did it, and at the end of it there was a quiz, and you get a result for your archetype. And I have never in my life read something so aligned. And it was genuinely that second moment where I felt the universe going, right, you're safe again now. You've got yourself to a place where you know you can do it. You're earning enough to pay the mortgage, enough to pay the bills, but you are capable of more. And that was the moment I went from what I had been doing to the description you read out at the beginning, because I released all 3 books, launched the podcast, and opened 3 extra businesses in the space of 18 months.
Wow. Because
something in that profile went to me, you can do more. And it turned a switch. It flipped something inside me. It woke something up. And I just went for it. I'd done a visibility audit. And someone else who was on the course with me had also done one, and they were a lot higher up because they had a book on Amazon. So I was like, right, well, I've always wanted to write a book. Why not? How hard can it be? It's slightly harder than you think, but not that hard. I write a lot. I'm a writer, I'm a poet anyway, and I write blogs a lot, so I kind of had something to start with for the first one. The second one I wrote from scratch, but I just did it. I'd see someone post on Facebook about the fact they wanted a guest for their podcast, and I'd be like, sure. Whereas before I would have thought, oh no, 100 people have replied. They won't even look at my reply.
Right.
I call it my year of yes. I literally applied for everything. I said yes to every opportunity. I tried it. I mean, the podcast I started, I love my podcast. It's been going 18 months. At the moment, if I'm completely honest, it's a complete money pit. It is a vanity project. I love it. It gets me out there. It's topics I enjoy. I do it with one of my best friends. But is it making me a fortune? No. The training arm I did because I hate unethical marketing practices, and I hate seeing newbies into the business world being sort of bamboozled by the snake oil and told that you need to spend £7,000 on this course just to understand how to post on social media, or use this one hook and you'll make 7 figures overnight. Oh. It came from that. Again, it's not going to make me a millionaire. I don't want it to make me a millionaire. If it saves just one person from buying into all the snake oil and unethical rubbish out there, then I'm happy.
I just love it. And this year of saying yes is brilliant. And it clearly has done so much for you. Now, the thing is, though, you are very exuberant. You're clearly outgoing. You're extroverted. I'm being kind here, Danielle, as you can tell. but
you say that. You go back to my childhood. I didn't go on a slide till I was 28 when I had my first child.
Oh,
I was so shy, I wouldn't leave my mother's side. We lived in a tiny village and we'd go to birthday parties with everyone I went to school with. So there was no strangers in there. They were all people I went to school with. And I would put my hands and my feet on the door frame and just refuse to go in. I was cripplingly shy. University nearly killed me off.
I would take it all back then.
Well, and that's the
thing. You certainly come across that way.
I didn't find myself. I started in my 30s, but it wasn't until I started this I found myself. From a mindset point of view, which is obviously ultimately what we're talking about, I finally found the thing that makes me happy, and I finally found the thing where I can actually shine. And I'm not perfect. There are still days when I'm like, oh, stop being so noisy, stop being so loud, stop standing out that much. But then there are also days when I'm like, oh my god, dude, did you see that reel? I looked amazing, and it got, whatever views and whatever likes. And I think mindset, much like health or any kind of mental well-being, is such an ongoing process. I am very confident in saying I did not find myself till I was in my late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. And I would love to say that I was like this as a child and I was on stage, and I was not.
And it's interesting. Sorry, Danielle, to interrupt. It's interesting that you say that mindset is an ongoing process. It absolutely is, and it's also entirely individual. So you don't need to be outgoing. You don't need to be exuberant. You don't need to be jumping up and down and screaming, "Hey, look at me, look at me." You can be as introverted as you are by nature, and absolutely nobody should ever change who they are, because everybody's unique exactly as they are. They're special exactly as they are. The mindset piece goes along with that. It doesn't contradict it. You don't have to become outgoing to have a positive and a kind mindset.
No, you don't. And I think the way the internet is set up at the moment and the way the world is set up, we're very much kind of inundated with loud people because volume tends to stand out. My personal sort of mantra is that you have to find your North Star, your guiding principle for your business. If you want to be loud and outgoing and you want to work towards that, absolutely, you be that. If you want to work from a beach in Bali, you aim for that. If you want 7 figures a month, you aim for that. I don't want any of those things.
Sound in the laptop, not good.
Well, I know, and the sun on the screen, you can't see anything. It's not fun. If I'm in Bali, I want to be sunbathing and drinking pina coladas, not working. I think you have to really kind of align yourself with the idea of what you want. So for me, for a long time, that was being able to pick my kids up and drop them off every single day, which I did. I did it throughout both of their school careers, and I'm really, really proud of that. When we got home at 3:00, if Logan wanted to play Lego, absolutely, I'm on the floor with you building a monastic abbey or whatever it is I feel like building today. I had that flexibility. And yes, the business is busier now, and yes, I'm doing more and I'm saying more, but my kids are older and they don't need me as much, and I get just as much joy from this identity as I did from being a parent, as I did from, doing the podcast or writing the books. So when you found what you want to do, that's the best way to show up, because if you're trying to be something you're not, like you said, if you're trying to be loud and confident, it's not going to work. It's going to feel uncomfortable and you're not going to want to do it, and you're going to be cringing every time you look at it.
Absolutely.
Or avoiding it.
For sure. And, as I said at the beginning, mindset is, and you said also, it's a process, but it also shows up in every single micro element of our lives. Everything we do, and like you say, all the things we say yes or no to, all those chances we take on ourselves or don't, all those times we put our family first or don't, it's all a mindset thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I spent a year saying yes, and a lot of that was me consciously having to go, what if they say no? Then so what? And it was I did CBT a long time ago when I was in corporate and I was struggling. And one of the things he taught me was so what? So for every time, every kind of barrier you come up with, say so what to it. So what if they say no? So what? Right. What if no one likes my post? So what? What if no one sees my post? So what? And constantly asking myself that question kind of unpicks it down to the bit that's actually my fear and my block. And it's got nothing to do with the external world. I'm not going to be cancelled. I'm some woman who lives in Nottingham. I'm not big enough to be cancelled. I'm not Kim Kardashian. And that's fine.
And that's the thing, isn't it? We put so much pressure on ourselves and we think that the whole world is watching. And especially at the beginning, trust me, no one's watching. That's just the reality.
Sorry.
And actually, that is the time to try things out, because that's the time when nobody's going to notice. So, and even if you do get to be sort of very well known, all the rest of it, you can still make mistakes, you can still get it wrong, and you're still, the world's not going to stop turning. And, I know we're treating it quite flippantly almost, and we're treating it with a lot of humour, but I think it does need to be kind of deconstructed to what it actually boils down to. And, we have the habit of making things seem much bigger and much more important and much scarier than they actually are in reality. And being able to, you know, adopt this mindset, this kind mindset, this open mindset is going to be incredibly powerful to help propel us forward and to make those decisions that ultimately get us where we want to be.
And it's that openness. I mean, the kindness, in theory, we should all be kind to ourselves anyway, and a lot of us find that quite difficult because we're our own worst critic. But that openness, I remember, so going back to being shy, I'd never been in a pub on my own. I'd always met friends outside. I would never have walked into a pub on my own. And I had a friend that was kind of desensitising me to the idea of walking into a pub on my own. And we sat in a pub one day and he said, just watch people come in and then watch everyone around them. And you'd have people walking in and going up to the bar, or people walking in, going to find their friends. Not one person in the pubs turns around and looks at them. And my block was that everyone was going to think I was weird because I was a woman walking into a pub on my own, or there's a loser who doesn't have a friend, or whatever the hell it was I was thinking in my head. They didn't. Yeah. No one thinks that. And it was such a vivid example for me of, well, if that's just one example in one pub, what's it like online? You know, you don't like me, you scroll past. You know, you're offended by my hair colour or the fact that I've got a lampshade on my head, which I have done on social media, or any other random thing. They just scroll past. And if they do like you, they'll drop you a like or they'll engage with you. And I always believe, you know, even you said you get to a certain point where, all right, you might have more exposure, but you can still make mistakes. Wouldn't you rather get to the stage where you've got that level of exposure, that level of audience, and be 100% you, than have built an entire identity on something that never quite feels like it fits? Like you're wearing a top that's too small or a hat that looks awful on you, because you'll be forcing it your whole life. Whereas I just go online and go, yeah, sure, why not?
That is an incredibly powerful reflection. And I think it's a really good way to wrap up the episode, actually, because I think, you know, the whole, what would you prefer when you look back, when you're 80 years old and you look back on your life, what would you prefer to have happened? To have built something that's been based on your terms, in your way, on your identity, your North Star, as you called it, all of that? Or would you rather have the regret that you built something that wasn't authentic, that wasn't really you, that wasn't what your heart wanted, and that you were closed off to the world, that you were closed off to opportunities because you had these fears and these blocks? I know which one I would rather choose. Yes. And I think, you know, we all know which one we'd rather choose. So bringing it back to the present, it's, okay, how do we take the first step to make that happen? How do we, right now, today, how do we do that?
However small that step is.
Yes.
Yeah.
However small, it all starts inside our own heads. Yeah. And we all have the capacity to do it. Yes, we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to be open to experiences. They will come. You are living proof of that. And I just think your story is a great inspiration to people. And I really hope that this episode has been inspiring. And I just think it's a great story. So thank you so much for joining me,
You're
Danielle.
Very welcome.
I appreciate your honesty and your candour. It's been really good fun as well. And please come back again sometime. I'd love to have you back on the show.
We could do like a 15-parter where we keep going.
Oh my goodness. Oh, is the world ready for that? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think they are.
Danielle, thank you so much.
You're very
welcome.
It's been
a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.